Wine was laying in bed while her alarm kept ringing. Why does my phone keep ringing? It was the fourth time the alarm had gone off, and finally, with a huff, she reached over, squinting at the screen, and swiped it off. Just as she was about to get up, another notification popped up, drawing her attention. Her eyes narrowed as she saw who it was, from none other than Jungkook, her classmate and sworn enemy. Bring my assignments with you, no excuses like last time, or else you will face the consequences. Your expression twisted with irritation. You could feel the heat rising in your chest, but instead of opening the message, you simply read it from the notification bar and swiped it away, rolling your eyes. His demanding tone always grated on your nerves. Ignoring it, you let out a soft sigh. You got out of bed and straightened the bed sheets with quick, impatient movements. You headed into the washroom, feeling the cool tiles under your feet, and spent about 20 minutes getting ready. Emerging from the bathroom, you stood in front of the mirror, tying your hair into a neat ponytail. Your reflection showed a determined face, ready to tackle the day despite the unwanted morning message. After a final check in the mirror, you turned towards your study table. Your hands moved quickly, stuffing notebooks and assignments into your bag. The thought of Jungkook's demand briefly crossed your mind, but you brushed it aside with a scoff. You slung the bag over your shoulder and headed downstairs. Your mom had already set breakfast on the table, her warm smile greeting you as you entered the kitchen. But you were in too much of a rush to sit and eat. Mom, I'm getting late, so I'll just eat this on the way. Thank you, bye. Without waiting for a response, you bolted towards the door, but your mom called after you with concern in her voice. But at least drink the glass of juice. Wine. She turned around only to find you already gone. The door clicking shut behind you. This girl, Wine's point of view, as I entered the hallway, the usual chatter of students filled the air. I made my way towards my locker, my mind still clouded by the annoying message from the morning. Opening my locker, I grabbed my things and stuffed into them my bag, trying to focus on the day ahead. But just as I was about to close the locker, the sound of loud cheering reached my ears from the other side of the hallway. I paused, letting out a soft sigh. I knew exactly what was going on without even having to look. With a reluctant glance over my shoulder, I spotted the crowd gathering, their excited voices filling the space. I walked closer, curiosity getting the best of me, and sure enough, there were two boys in the middle of a fight, surrounded by onlookers. One boy was pinned beneath another, barely defending himself as the punches rained down on him. The one doing the punching was none other than Jungkook, of course. His opponent, laying helplessly on the floor, was Park Ji-sang, his long-standing rival. They fought almost daily, and it was always the same scene. Jungkook on top, fists flying, with the other guy barely managing to defend himself. I sighed again, shaking my head. They never stop, do they? I thought to myself, deciding to ignore the chaos. These two fighting had become such a regular thing that it didn't even surprise me anymore. I turned away from the commotion and made my way into the classroom. As soon as I entered, my friend lifted her hand, greeting me with a bright smile from across the room. Despite the morning's irritations and the fight outside, I couldn't help but smile back at her. Her energy was always contagious. I walked over and sat beside her, feeling a bit lighter as I settled into my seat, trying to leave the noise and drama of the hallway behind. The class was in session, but someone was shaking my chair with his legs. I turned my head slightly and realized it was Jungkook. I let out a quite frustrated sigh before whisper shouting at him. Hey, don't! It's irritating me. Jungkook leaned back in his chair, smirking. That's exactly why I'm doing it. His smirk made me roll my eyes, but before I could respond, the professor spoke up. Students, today we have a new admission, miss. Please introduce yourself to the class. I turned to see a girl at the front of the class looking a little nervous. Hello everyone, my name is Amelia. I just transferred here and I hope we can all be friends. She bowed politely and I could feel the curiosity buzzing in the room. The professor then gestured towards the empty seat beside Jungkook. Amelia, you can sit with Jungkook. There is a seat available next to him. That made my blood boil. Of course, it had to be him. As Amelia made her way over, I could hear Jungkook's smooth voice greet her. Hello, beautiful. Amelia glanced at him shyly before speaking softly. Can I sit with you? Jungkook flashed his usual charming smile. Of course, who would reject a beautiful girl like you? I clenched my jaw as I sat in front of them, hearing every word of their conversation. Amelia blushed as she continued. Oh, thank you. By the way, you are. I'm Jungkook. He winked at her. I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and it only made my irritation grow. Alright, class, that's all for today. Please make sure to submit your assignments on my desk before leaving. The room filled with the sounds of students packing their bags, but Jungkook's voice cut through the noise. Why did you finish my assignment? I didn't even look at him as I stood up, grabbed the papers from my desk, and tossed them on his desk like they were trash. Here, try not to mess this up too. After that day, Jungkook started ignoring you, and instead of his usual teasing, he began spending more and more time with Amelia. It didn't go unnoticed, and to be honest, it was starting to get on your nerves. Oh, so now I don't even exist. You catch glimpses of them together in the hallways, laughing, talking, and sitting close during breaks. He seemed to be going out of his way to show you that he didn't care anymore. But instead of feeling hurt, it only fueled your irritation, but somewhere you were hurt. After a week in the cafeteria, you okay? Jungkook really knows how to get under your skin. Let him try, he will regret it. Wine and Lisa sat together chatting. Wine lazily stirred her cold Americano. Lisa, what should I do about him? She took a sip from her coffee, her annoyance clear. Lisa leaned in, smiling as if she had the perfect plan. Why don't you make him jealous? Wine immediately rolled her eyes, dismissing the idea before Lisa could even finish. Seriously, that's so old. Jungkook's not gonna fall for that again. Lisa raised her eyebrows, her smile not faltering. Hold on, don't jump to conclusions. Hear me out first. Wine leaned back, crossing her arms, but she nodded for Lisa to continue. Okay, so what if we get Jae-sang involved? He likes you and he's been dying for a chance to spend time with you. He would totally help. Wine frowned, shaking her head slightly. I don't want to play with his feelings. That's not fair. Lisa waved it off as if it was the simplest problem in the world. We will tell him upfront, he will know it's all just an act. And let's be honest, he would probably still be up for it. Wine raised an eyebrow, still unsure, but Lisa, already excited, leaned in closer and starting telling her plan. You really think that will work? Trust me, it's foolproof. Wine took another sip of her coffee, letting the idea settle in. Maybe Lisa was right. It was risky, but it could work. All right, let's give it a shot. But I swear, if this backfires, I'm blaming you. Lisa laughed, already thrilled with her idea. Deal, now let's get to class. Look at him, acting like I'm invisible now, and with her, really. You rolled your eyes as Lisa glanced over at Jungkook and Amelia sitting together. Honestly, it's like he's trying to make you jealous. You're not gonna let him get to you, right? Jealous? Please, he can do whatever he wants. It doesn't bother me at all. But the truth was, it did bother you more than you wanted to admit. Every time you saw him smiling at Amelia, something inside you twisted and you hated it. Lisa leaned in with a mischievous grin. Well, maybe it's time to put that plan into action. She sangs, waiting for his moment. Wine smirked her attitude and full swung. Wine and Lisa were sitting in their seats when Chisang entered the classroom. Wine, noticing him, waved him over. Hey, Chisang, come sit with us. Chisang smirked, casting a glance behind him at Jungkook, who was glaring in his direction. With a smile, he sauntered over and sat down next to Wine, positioning himself between her and Lisa. Why not? Jungkook, sitting across the room with Amelia, was clearly listening in on their conversation. Though Amelia was trying to keep his attention on her. Wine, I need your help, Jisang. You are pretty good at physics, right? Could you help me with some numericals? Shesang hesitated for a second, glancing at Lisa, who subtly winked at him, giving him the confidence to respond. Of course, love, anything for you. Jungkook's reaction was immediate. His chair scraped against the floor as he shot to his feet. What? The sudden outburst startled Ryan, Lisa, and Chesang. What are you shouting, man? Jungkook's jaw tightened as he glared directly at Hisang. Why did you call her love? Lisa smirked, knowing exactly what was going on, and Vine didn't miss the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. She leaned back, her gaze challenging as she locked eyes with Jungkook. It's none of your business, Jungkook. Jungkook blinked, stunned by her sharp retort. So you're happy being called love by him? White shrugged, her tone icy as she continued. I said it's none of your business. Don't interfere, especially since you're too busy with your new friend. Anyway, her eyes flicked pointedly toward Amelia, and she couldn't help but throw a disgusted look her way. Jungkook's fists clenched, his knuckles turning white as he banged his fists on the desk. The sound reverberating through the room. Without another word, he stormed out of the classroom, Amelia quickly scrambling to follow him. Lisa scrunched her nose in amusement, watching them leave his cheek. Wine leaned toward Jisang with a playful smile. So, would you like to help me? Jisang smirked, leaning back in his chair as he crossed his arms. Okay, I'll help you, but I want something in return. Wine raised an eyebrow. What is it? Chesang glanced at her with a mischievous glint in his eyes. Since you want my help in physics, I will need your help in chemistry. You are a genius in that subject, right? Lisa, always quick to jump in, chuckled. Isn't that what they call mutual progress? Everyone laughed, including Wine and Chisang. The tension from earlier lightened, and for a brief moment, the whole situation felt less complicated. The next day, Wine and Chisang were sitting at a quiet corner in the library, books spread across the table. Wine had her physics textbook open, clearly struggling to grasp the concept in front of her. I just don't get how this works. These formulas are look the same to me. Chesang smirked, leaning over to look at her notes. That's because you are overcomplicating it. Look, it's just about remembering where to put the variables. You have got the concepts down. He pointed at the equation in her notebook, patiently explaining how to rearrange it step by step. Wine watched him, her brow furrowed in concentration. How do you make this look so simple? Because I am a genius, obviously. Wine rolled her eyes, but there was a playful smile on her lips. All right, Mr. Genius. I guess it's your turn to struggle with chemistry then. Chesang scratched the back of his head, his confident demeanor faltering slightly. Yeah, about that, I'm not sure I will pick up chemistry as fast as you are learning physics. Wine chuckled and slid her chemistry notes over to him. Don't worry, I have got your back. Let's start with the basics. I'm sure you will catch on. Chesang gave her a grateful nod, leaning closer to her as they both began reviewing his chemistry notes. The two were Gunsenic, focusing intently but with occasional jokes slipping into her conversation. Okay, so this chemical reaction, wait, what does this even mean? Wine smiled, clearly amused. It means you are in for a lot of studying, but don't worry, by the time we are done, you will be an expert. Wine and Chesang were deep into their study session, working through the equations and formulas when the library door opened and Jungkook walked in with Amelia by his side. They scanned the room, and when Jungkook's eyes landed on Wine and Chesang sitting together, his jaw tightened. Without saying a word, Jungkook led Amelia to the table right next to Wine and Chisang. He sat down, his eyes never leaving Wine, while Amelia happily chattered away. Obvious to the tension breathing, you felt his intense gaze but decided to ignore him completely, focusing on Chisang, who was asking her a question about a chemistry equation. So, if we add this element here, does it balance the equation? Exactly. Now you are getting it. He leaned closer to point out something on his paper, causing Jungkook's grip on his pen to tighten. His eyes narrowed, feeling a pang of jealousy as he watched Wine laugh with Chesang. He hated seeing her so comfortable with another guy, especially Chesang. Jungkook low voice to Amelia. I thought we were here to study, not to watch a show. We can study, but you keep staring at them. Wine heard Jungkook's voice but didn't react. She continued explaining the chemistry problem to Chesang, refusing to let Jungkook's presence affect her. Her cool attitude only made him more irritated, but she didn't care. For now, she had Jisang's undivided attention, and that was all that mattered. Thanks, Wine. You are really good at this. No problem. Glad I could help. Jungkook's eyes flickered with frustration. He clenched his fists under the table, trying to keep his emotions in check, but the jealousy burned within him as he watched Wine laugh and help Chisang without sparing him a glance. After 2 weeks, it was Wine's birthday, and although she had received many well wishing messages, her mind was consumed by the absence of one in particular, Jungkook's. She was alone at home, her mom gone to visit her grandmother, and her dad away on business. The quietness of the house only made the silence more painful. He didn't even wish me, she thought bitterly as she stood in the kitchen, leaning against the counter. Just as she was about to turn on the stove to make herself something to eat, there was a sudden knock at the door. Wine frowned, wondering who it could be at this time. She wasn't expecting anyone. As she opened the door, her breath catch in her throat. Jungkook stood there, leaning casually against the door frame, a smirk on his face, holding a small wrapped box in his hand. He looked effortlessly confident, but something in his eyes seemed to burn with intensity. What are you doing here? Wine blurted out, her voice a mix of shock and annoyance. Jungkook pushed past her without waiting for an invitation, stepping into the house as if he owned it. Happy birthday, he said casually, tossing the gift on the couch. Wine crossed her arms and shot him a glare. He didn't even message me, she snapped, slamming the door shut behind him. Why are you here now? Shouldn't you be with Amelia? At the mention of Amelia, Jungkook smirked deepened. He turned to face her, his dark eyes locking onto hers. Ah, so that's what this is about. He sat, stepping closer, his voice dropping lower. You are jealous. Wine scoffed, her eyes widening at his accusation. Jealous of Amelia? She sat, trying to sound confident but feeling she knew the truth. His flirting with Amelia had eaten her up inside, but he wasn't about to admit that, not to him. Jungkook let out a low chuckle, his smirk growing more prominent. You can deny it all you want, but I know you, Wyan. He took another step forward, closing the distance between them. You couldn't stand it. Watching me with her, could you? Wine's heart raced, but she wasn't going to let him win this easily. I don't care what you do, Jungkook. She shot back, raising her chin definitely. You can flirt with whoever you want. It's none of my business. He tilted his head, his eyes narrowing slightly. None of your business, he repeated, his voice almost mocking. Then why are you so angry right now? Why did you mention Amelia the second I walked in? Wine felt her face flush with anger. She opened her mouth to argue, but no words came out. She hated how he always managed to twist her emotions like this, how he could make her feel so vulnerable with just a few words. You think I don't notice the way you look at me? Jungkook continued, his voice dangerously low. He took another step forward, now standing right in front of her, towering over her with his imposing presence. You think I don't see the way your eyes follow me every time I'm near? Wine swallowed hard, trying to hold her ground, but the intensity in his gaze was overwhelming. She refused to admit it, refused to acknowledge the truth in his words, but she couldn't deny the heat rising in her chest, the way her heart pounded every time he was close. I'm not jealous, she lied, her voice barely above a whisper. Jungkook smirked, clearly not convinced. He leaned in closer, his face inches from hers, his breath warm against her skin. You can keep telling yourself that, Wine, but I see right through you. Wine's pulse quickened, her mind racing. She hated how close he was, how his presence made her feel weak. Why are you here, Jungkook? She finally asked, her voice shaky. Why now? Jungkook's smirk faded slightly, replaced by a more serious expression. Because I have had enough of this game. He said, his voice firm. I'm done with pretending. I have always wanted you wine, and I'm tired of waiting for you to admit what you feel. Wine's heart skipped a beat at his words, but she quickly masked her shock with anger. You expect me to just forget how you treated me? She snapped, You spent weeks flirting with Amelia, ignoring me, making me feel like Chungo cut her off, his voice sharp. Amelia means nothing to me. He said, his gaze intense. She's my cousin. That was just to push you, to see if you would finally show me what's been inside you. This whole time, Wine blinked in surprise. Cousin, she whispered, her anger faltering for a moment. Yeah, she said, his smirk returning. She told you, didn't she? That I was only trying to make you confess. And guess what, Wine? He leaned even closer, his lips brushing her ear as he whispered, It worked. One was walking home, the dim glow of streetlights casting long shadows on the quiet street. The grocery bag in her hand felt heavier than usual. Her mind clouded with thoughts about Jungkook and Chaesang. She couldn't shake the tension from earlier in the library, and it frustrated her how Jungkook always seemed to get under her skin. As she turned a corner, she almost bumped into someone. Wine, a familiar voice called out, and Wine looked up only to see Amelia standing in front of her, a casual but slightly apologetic smile on her face. Amelia, Wine muttered, catch off guard. She had not expected to see her here, especially not now. Amelia sighed, stepping closer. I need to talk to you about Jungkook. Wine stiffened at the mention of his name, her heart pounding in her chest. What about him? She asked, her tone sharper than she intended. Amelia looked away for a second, then back at Wine with an expression that almost seemed sympathetic. I know you probably hate me, or at least dislike me for spending time with him, but there is something you should know. She paused, her voice softer now. Jungkook is my cousin on my mother's side. Wine blinked, momentarily stunned. Cousin? Then why? Amelia cut her off, nodding, yes, he never told you because. Well, he wanted you to confess first. He thought if he could make you jealous enough, you would finally admit your feelings for him, but you never did. Wine's mind raced, so that's why he was spending time with Amelia. She felt a strange mixture of relief and confusion, but her voice went up immediately. What are you trying to say, Amelia? That this was all some kind of game? Amelia shook her head quickly, her voice sincere. No, Wine, he's been in love with you for so long. He didn't know how else to get through to you, so he thought making you jealous would work. She looked at Wine directly, her eyes pleading for her to understand. He didn't mean to hurt you. He's been waiting for you to realize how much he cares. Amelia took a step back, giving her space. I just thought you should know, she said quietly. He's been hurting too. Maybe you should talk to him. With that, Amelia turned and walked away, leaving Wine standing frozen in the middle of the empty street, her thoughts spinning. Wine's breath hissed at the closeness, her body betraying her with the way it reached to him. She clenched her fists, trying to regain control. You are insane, she muttered, stepping back, her voice trembling with a mix of frustration and confusion. Maybe, Jungkook sighed with a dark chuckle. His eyes never leaving hers. But you can't deny what's between us anymore. No more running, Wine. Wine's mind was spinning, her emotions all over the place. She hated how much power he had over her, how easily he could break down her defenses, and as much as she wanted to deny it, she couldn't stop the flutter in her chest whenever he was near. Wine, Jungkook started, his voice low. I need to apologize. I should not have pushed you away like that or made you feel like I didn't care. I was trying to make you notice me, but I didn't realize how much it would hurt you. Wine looked at him, the weight for his confession hanging in the air. You did hurt me, Jungkook. I felt like you were just using Amelia to make me jealous. I didn't know you actually cared. I was an idiot, he admitted, running a hand through his hair, frustration evident on his face. I thought if I acted like I didn't care, you would see what you were missing, but it just ended up hurting you instead. Why didn't you just tell me how you felt? Wine asked, crossing her arms, trying to keep her defenses up. Because I was scared, Jungkook admitted, taking a step closer, scared you wouldn't feel the same way. I have liked you for so long, and when I saw you with Jae-sang, it made me realize I couldn't stand the thought of losing you. Wine's heart fluttered at his words, and for the first time, she saw the vulnerability in his eyes. You really like me? She asked, disbelief tinging her voice. More than I can say. He replied earnestly, and I didn't mean to make you feel like I was just playing games. I'm really sorry for everything. Tension melted away, replaced by a mixture of relief and warmth. I'm sorry too. I should have trusted you more. I was just trying to figure out my feelings. Jungkook stepped closer, closing the distance between them. So, can we start fresh? I want to show you how much you mean to me, but I need you to be honest with me too. Wine nodded, her heart racing. I want that. I like you, Jungkook. I really do. His face broke into a bright smile, and for a moment, the world around them faded. I have wanted to hear you say that for so long. Then let's forget about the past and move forward. She sat feeling lighter than she had in past days. Deal. He sat, a teasing grin appearing on his face. But first, I need to make it up to you properly. Really? How? Wide raised an eyebrow, her curiosity was at peak. Jungkook stepped closer, lowering his voice. How about a kiss, just to seal the deal? Yes, please, Wine whispered, feeling giddy with excitement. As their lips met, everything around them melted away. The kiss was soft yet filled with an urgency that took Wine by surprise. It was as if all the tension and misunderstandings of the past evaporated, leaving only the sweetness of the moment when they finally pulled apart breathless. Jungkook rested his forehead against hers, a grin still plastered on his face. Happy birthday, Wine! I hope this is the beginning of something amazing for us. Wine smiled back, her heart full. Best birthday ever, she replied. They shared a laugh, the warmth of their newfound connection wrapping around them like a cozy blanket. With Jungkook by her side, Wine felt ready to embrace whatever came next.